football. It's personal between me and you, and I'm going to do you some serious harm, you big stiff idiot.
The Untouchable Tru School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games were missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of Tru School Sports subscribers. Now, there's a lot of headlines in the news with Anthony Joshua's name in it. Some from Eddie Hearn, some from Joyce. So I kind of wanted to touch on it. It'll be kind of be a two-part video. But we'll start with the Eddie Hearn side of things, because Eddie Hearn, obviously one of his main priorities always in matchroom boxing is to look after Anthony Joshua and put him in the best possible position to be, in the mix and be at the top of the heavyweight division. Now, he has mapped out a plan for Anthony Joshua. He was speaking to the fine folks, Ak and Barack, on the DAZN boxing show. And here's what he had to say, word for word, verbatim. He stated the following, and I quote, he being Anthony Joshua, he wants to return with a top 15 guy. Then in the summer, probably versus Dillian White, and then a mega fight with Deontay Wilder. The plan now is to rebuild him to become a 3-time heavyweight world champion. It's all very well being brave, listening to Twitter, and going out and fighting Deontay Wilder, but there has to be a plan, a smart plan. He then went on by saying, we are down to 3 or 4 opponents for his next fight. He is ready to start camp and will likely start camp this week. I honestly couldn't give Anthony Joshua an opponent he will turn down. It's all about putting together the right training team. So there you have it. And then he said he wants Joshua to fight three times this year. So there you have it. So let's try to figure out who the hell he might be fighting next, because there's a lot of things I'm interested to see who he might fight next, because I have a hunch of who I think it might be. Let's see. So right now, as it stands, I mean, you got a couple guys that I can see him fighting. So he's not gonna fight Wilder next, so just scrape him off the board. He's not gonna fight Ruiz in the trilogy fight, because Ruiz will more than likely fight Wilder next, so scrape him off the board. Okay, that leaves you with a couple names. Okay, so you got someone like Otto Wallin, who's ranked number 3 in the WBO. Otto Wallin is a higher risk, low reward fighter. Doesn't really make for the most entertaining fights, and he's a good fighter. He could possibly, make it Anthony Joshua look very bad in there. So I don't think he's fighting him either. So scrape him off the board. So then that will leave you with guys like Filip Hrgovic, a guy like Martin Bakole, people like that. Now Martin Bakole's not in the matchroom stable, and Martin Bakole, I think is also, could be a good fight, but he could also be a dangerous fight for Anthony Joshua. So scrape him off the board. So that leaves me with, honestly, he said Dillian White will be in the summer, so scrape him off the board for his next opponent as well. So that will leave you a couple guys. That leaves me realistically, I think, with 2 options. There's 2 realistic options for Anthony Joshua's next fight. To me, it's either going to be Filip Hrgovic, because I think Anthony Joshua is the only fighter that Hrgovic would fight and risk his mandatory spot and losing his mandatory spot against, because the money and the opportunity to make a statement in the division will be so big that you couldn't pass up on that fight. So I can see Filip Hrgovic possibly getting the fight. And then outside of him, I think the big southpaw Australian heavyweight, or I don't know if he's Australian or from New Zealand. I think he's Australian. Dempsey McKean, he's ranked number 15th in the IBF. I know Eddie Hearn has talked about, he was talking about the week of the Liam Paro Brock Jarvis fight, about because Dempsey McKean fought on the card. He was potentially talking about Anthony Joshua fighting in Australia. So if they were going to do a fight in Australia against a lesser opponent, a guy that really isn't proven at that level, Dempsey McKean could be an option. So listen, you also got Zhang Zhilei, who I think is an extremely dangerous heavyweight, as he showed in his last fight against Filip Hrgovic, who a lot of people think he won. So maybe take that fight, but that's a big, hard punching southpaw. I don't see any reason for that. So my thing is this, man. Hrgovic and Dempsey McKean, I think, are the 2 options you're gonna get for his next fight. Now, Dempsey McKean, good fighter, southpaw. Apart from the fact that the fight could be in Australia and it'll be a spectacle, I really don't care much for that fight, just being honest with you. I think I would like to see Dempsey McKean maybe fight a couple more guys in the top 10 and really see what we have with him before he fights Joshua. As far as Hrgovic is concerned, I think it's a great fight. Honestly, the timing of that fight wouldn't be better than right now, because Filip Hrgovic, his stock is at an all-time low. I feel like everybody I talk to tells me that he sucks and he's a bum and he's a hype job, and people just tell me all these things about him. And that's okay, because boxing is a very emotional sport. People will build you up one day as the next big thing, and the next day you're not nobody. So, but he didn't lose. He didn't lose to Zhang. So with that being said, with him coming off of a not so great performance, and then Anthony Joshua having a meltdown, and this is all on the same card. I think it lines up perfectly for those two to fight each other. You know, and on top of that, I mean, I'm not sure what kind of factor this could play in it, but you know, Hrgovic is from Croatia. He's got a country behind him, so there will be some Croatian television involved. That means anything to the negotiations, but it'd be a good fight. I think for AJ, it's a good fight because Hrgovic can move, he can box, but he can also be stiff at times too, and he can punch. It's the kind of style that I think would make for an entertaining fight and would allow for AJ to kind of go back to his basics and try to impose the guy he used to be on a Hrgovic. And for Hrgovic, I'm gonna tell you all right now, and I've said it already. I think if they fight, Hrgovic is gonna annihilate Anthony Joshua, especially now because I've been talking to him a lot and I've been seeing him in the gym. And you guys out there who write these comments, you know, you're really pissing him off, and he's really sharpening some things up. I'm not gonna say what they are, but he's been sharpening some things up in the gym. And whether it's AJ or whoever, I feel bad for whoever his next opponent is, because I know, as he stated here, he had a lot of things going on going into the Zhang fight, and he's definitely better than he showed that night, and he's eager to prove that. And a pissed off fighter like Filip Hrgovic, I think, is a dangerous one, as to where with Anthony Joshua right now, you know, he's kind of changing teams, going from this trainer to that trainer. Anthony Joshua, I think, has lost a bit of his identity in the ring. So I think he's vulnerable to anybody in fights, especially a guy like Filip Hrgovic. So we'll see what happens with that. But apart from that, you know, Joyce was venting a little bit, frustrated to the media that you know, Anthony Joshua doesn't fight, or they don't really try to fight him. You know, he said that it's not a surprise. I'm reading the quotes. He said, I quote, "It's not a surprise because when does Joshua mention my name? Apart from when I was in the Olympics, as soon as I turned pro, he didn't mention my name or Eddie Hearn. If you're not with us, you're against us, and I don't have millions of followers like Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. Maybe it's because I don't have enough followers. If people want to see it, let's make it happen. I guess it needs to be built up, and when he has no choice but to fight me, but he will fight me. But it's a big fight. Olympic gold versus Olympic silver. Maybe the medals could be swapped. I think I'm more deserving." So that's what it is. He kind of knows that he has to wait and see what happens with his next fight. You know, he knows he's probably like 3 fights away at the earliest from the Anthony Joshua fight. And I feel bad for Joyce because he's no spring chicken. He needs these fights now. He's operating at his highest level right now. But these guys don't want to fight him because they just don't think that they're going to get compensated for the punishment they're going to take. And I don't blame him, because I've seen Joyce in person. That dude is what his name says he is. He's an absolute juggernaut. So I can't blame AJ. But he made an interesting point saying that, you know, that fight would be Olympic gold versus Olympic silver. Now, for those that know, for those that don't know, Anthony Joshua controversially won a gold medal in the 2012 Olympics in London. A lot of people thought that he was kind of gifted that fight, and they rolled out the red carpet for him to be the gold medalist in his hometown. As to where with Joyce, he was a silver medalist. He lost controversially to Tony Yoka. And on top of that, it got even worse in the years in the aftermath of that, because then the whole McLaren report / scandal came out, and basically Joyce was cheated out of a gold medal. So he's got a right to feel how he feels, because Anthony Joshua, from the day he's entered the pros, has been groomed to be this commercial superstar. As to where with Joyce, you know, people always say he's slow, he's this, he's that, and he's had a kind of scratch, claw, and fight for everything he's getting in boxing. So I understand his frustration, and I want to see Joyce get those big fights, because he's definitely won me over the last couple of years, and he's definitely someone that is worth our time, our attention, and just the big fights. And I want to see the British George Foreman get those big fights sooner rather than later. So all this that we're talking about, Eddie Hearn's ultimate plan is to get the Deontay Wilder fight. Now, this to me is like the one fight in this division. If I had to make a list of the 3 heavyweight fights I want to see, this would be one of them, because this fight, Wilder has so much history, but will it happen? I feel like it would have to, because both guys are, time has passed by. It's been like 5 years since they were both undefeated, and they were talking about fighting each other. So, I think the fight has marinated enough. Both guys' value in the sport has increased tenfold, and I still think it's probably the best and the biggest non-title fight that could be made in the heavyweight division. That's a fight you could either have in the UK at like Wembley Stadium, or you could have it here in America at the MGM Grand Garden Arena or something like that. Either way you cut it up, slice it, or dice it, I think the fight does great business, and I think it'd be a net positive, not just for the heavyweight division, but boxing in general. You got Deontay Wilder, who's got the brakes beaten off of him by Tyson Fury, and he's a very vulnerable fighter. You got Anthony Joshua, who spit out his mouthpiece against Andy Ruiz, and then he had a mental breakdown against Usyk, and so these guys have both tasted defeat, on multiple occasions. And I think with them both being so vulnerable, maybe the fight might actually wind up being better now than it would have been back when we wanted to see it for Undisputed. Those things do happen in boxing sometimes. So, yeah, it's a lot of moving things going on in Anthony Joshua's career. He's trying to find a new training team. Eddie Hearn's mapping out a plan for him. Top 15 guy, which for those of you who don't know, when Eddie Hearn says top 15 guy and you just look at the rankings, that either means Dempsey McKean or Filip Hrgovic. So it's going to be, I personally think his next fight will be against either Dempsey McKean or Filip Hrgovic. Now, if I'm Eddie Hearn, don't pick Filip Hrgovic, because if so, Anthony Joshua is getting his 4th loss. Don't do it. If you think the Zhang fight, if that's who he was, you're gravely mistaken. You'd be best to take Dempsey McKean, do a big spectacle in Australia, build the zone in Australia a little bit more, but stay away from that Croatian. I'm telling you, stay away from the Croatian sensation, because he's very pissed off for greatness right now. He's pissed off to prove a point, and I truly believe, I'm not saying this because I know him. I'm not saying this because I'm biased or I'm a Hrgovic fanboy or anything like that. I'm telling you guys because I seen him work in the gym, and I know what I'm looking at. So I'm just saying, if Anthony Joshua if he has any fragility in his mind, it'll be found out in that fight. But yeah, top 15 guy. Dillian White rematch in the summer and be a good fight domestically. And then, if you make the Wilder fight, great for the heavyweight division. But that's the news. Eddie Hearn maps out his plan for Anthony Joshua. Joyce vents his frustration about not being an option for Joshua. And Tru School Sports, your boy, warns Eddie Hearn to not fight Filip Hrgovic. So take of that what you will. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just kidding, Daniel. So until next time, take care. Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable Tru School Sports empire. For more great boxing content just like this video, click right here and make sure you subscribe. Much love from sunny South Florida.